This is a lecture in the last 8 years where I didn't have to wake you guys up to come to the hall. Batch of 2024 and the returning JC students, welcome to the new academic year. In 2 days, we will have our 5th batch of students graduate. And to use a cliche, every year at this time, the old order changeth, yielding place to the new. I'm aware that I must quickly perform my role because you're waiting for him, but allow me a few minutes. Across the world, we have been witnessing successive summers of discontent, and it has been season upon season of occupation and resistance. But in the face of severe odds, democracy is fighting back. In recent months, in our own country, there has been a sort of reclaiming of our constitution and its democratic principles we adopted 75 years ago. And our Vice Chancellor will reveal to you later how JGU will be writing that history. But how did democracy take root in human society? Let me tell you a story. If you walk up a 150-meter rugged hill in Athens, not larger than 7 acres of land, and remember that JGU is 100 acres, it is bewildering how the small piece of fortified highland influenced the entire Western civilization and global thought over 25 centuries. How? As thought and art flourished, an exceptional group of artists put into effect the ambitious plans of Athenian statesman Pericles, and under the inspired guidance of the sculptor Phidias, transformed the rocky hill into a unique monument of thought and arts. On this hill was born democracy, philosophy, theater, freedom of expression and speech, and that provide to this day the intellectual and spiritual foundation for the contemporary world and its values. Below the Acropolis is the amphitheater of Dionysus, where it is believed democracy first found its voice through the plays of Sophocles, Aeschylus, and Euripides. The people of ancient Athens really understood the importance of theater as a shaper of the mind and soul. Comedies were of high importance because they criticized high-standing people in Athens, which really took democracy a step forward. This kind of criticism was not only allowed, it was expected. Playwrights like Aristophanes were there to make fun of the rulers, but also to make our hearts bleed about the tragedy of humankind. They were criticizing people and shaping human thought at the same time. That is democracy at work. On the other side of the hill was the Agora. That is where Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, and several others discussed and debated. They were free citizens who built a society of free thinkers. During the nationalist phase of Indian theater, drama was at first a direct critique of the colonial politics. Plays such as Neel Darpan used stark realism to unmask the oppression of peasants, estate workers, and poor. And post-independence period, Indian theater continued to perform the function of critique. In the great Natya Shastra, it is Brahma who creates theater as the 5th Veda, open to all varnas. He attributes the highest value to it as a path of human beings to transcend the vicissitudes of life. Freedom for all, freedom for thought is my first article of faith, and I welcome you again to this agora to question, debate, discuss, and hold power to account. Given who we have delivering the commencement speech, one of our finest film directors, I think it is only fitting to note the role of performance and storytelling for a healthy democracy. I would now like to invite our founding Vice Chancellor, Professor Raj Kumar, to address you. And let me tell you that he's a die-hard movie buff. And I must also acknowledge his unstinted support in helping us build this school with a state-of-art facilities, the latest of which shall be launched today. A film studio promises to be our most exciting space to tell stories. And it's also been a good summer. Just as we completed the film studio, we were allotted a frequency by the Government of India, and we shall soon have a community radio station on campus. Thank you.
All right, very, very good morning to all of you. First of all, I would like to extend my heartiest congratulations and greetings to all the incoming students of the 2024 batch of the Jindal School of Journalism and Communication. I want to begin by saying that what a defining moment for you in your own lives, having completed your 12th standard as well as completed the examinations, and then you of course went through a process of entrance examinations and all the career choices that you had to make before you ultimately decided to come here. So it's a very special moment and a very special journey, but I can't help but noting that journey because I was so pleased to see that Mr. Imtiaz Ali is a graduate of literature from the University of Delhi, which is also my alma mater. The reason that is important to mention here is that many years ago I decided to study law, and I come from a place called Chennai, and it's a relatively conservative city. And so when it was public knowledge that I'm planning to become a lawyer, over 20 of my relatives turned up at my home completely unannounced, and I was almost closeted with my parents. My mother is a doctor, and so the first question my uncle asked my father was, and it became public knowledge that I want to become a lawyer. He said, "What happened to Raj? He was a good student." And then my other aunt said, "I knew he was not good enough to become a doctor, but I thought he will at least become an engineer." And then the third person, another aunt said, "Doctors and engineers, you need to be smart, intelligent, and hardworking. He was never cut out for it. But we were hoping at least he'll become a chartered accountant." And of course, after some time, the conversation ended up saying that, these are very difficult times for you as parents. We are with you, and these bad times will not last long. Now, I'm thinking about that because you have chosen to study journalism and film and media. And I shudder to think that what would have happened, because those things were not even conceived at that time. So in a way, congratulations to each one of you, because you have taken a path that is far less traveled, and the fact that you have chosen to pursue these disciplines in this university, which focuses a lot more on liberal arts, humanities, and social sciences, speaks volumes about your own courage of conviction, but also the fact that India has changed. I see ourselves as Three Idiots generation. How many of you have watched the movie Three Idiots? Good. Because I was telling Kishore that should be the eligibility criteria for selecting students. If you haven't watched it, I would be worried about it. Today is a special day, and I'm not going to speak much because my own hero and I'm a big fan of him for a number of reasons, but most importantly, he's beyond a filmmaker. What Imtiaz Ali has done in his extraordinary career is to challenge every stereotype and to create a new imagination. He's one of those rare filmmakers who not only entertains the audience, but also leaves us with so many thoughts and so many questions and challenges our perspectives. In fact, it's very rare that art in all its forms and manifestations can be so compellingly inspiring and informative and empowering, and all those things he does in his films. But most importantly, he also deeply embeds himself into creating characters that can define the future of society and shape perspectives that we all end up having. So we are very, very fortunate that we have with us an outstanding intellectual. I would consider him as a true public intellectual because he uses the most popular medium to be able to share some of the most important perspectives, So I want to say that I know you must have watched all his movies, and I have done as well. But a very interesting movie, which I would encourage you to watch, don't go by the title of the movie, it's called Thai Massage. When you get time, you should watch it because it picks up one of the very, very interesting themes that continuously impacts our society. And that's the kind of difficult subjects he ends up picking. Every movie that he has done is also essentially advancing that thought. Lastly, I want to say for all the students who have joined the Jindal School of Journalism and Communication, you are part of a larger community. Always remember that this university has a wider community. You have 11 other schools in various disciplines, including law, business, international affairs, public policy, liberal arts and humanities, architecture, banking and finance, environment and sustainability, psychology and counseling, languages and literature, where we have a BA in English literature, and of course, public health and human development. So the point I want to say is that being a journalist and being somebody interested in film and media, you inevitably have a responsibility to understand the society at large. You ought to be coming out of your comfort zone to be able to understand the complexities of the society that we live in and the kind of challenges that we have. Professor Kishalai Bhattacharya, your dean, so beautifully talked about the evolution of democracy. But we are also part of a larger effort to speak truth to power at a time when we are constantly challenged with regard to the independence of our institutions, the kind of role media can play towards seeking accountability and promoting greater transparency. You as thinking people, you as people who are going to be future journalists, media professionals, communication specialists, and of course filmmakers and actors and all of that, you have a bigger role to play in shaping the future of our society. As we look at that future, I'm delighted to share with you that we are indeed celebrating the 15th anniversary of our university. I want to pay tribute to our Chancellor and benefactor, Mr. Jindal, who not only established the university, contributing over 2,600 crores of rupees towards the establishment of the university and its evolution, but also ensured that academic freedom and autonomy and independence remains the most important part of our journey. As we celebrate the 15th anniversary this year, I also want to share with you that India is celebrating the 75th anniversary of the adoption of the Constitution of India. On 26 November 1949, the Constitution of India was signed and it essentially was adopted by the Constituent Assembly. Now, of course, 75 years is a very big journey, but quite remarkably, we don't have in India a museum dedicated to the ideas and ideals of the Constitution, the history and evolution of the Constitution, and the celebration of the makers of the Constitution, and the evolution of the rights and freedoms in the last 75 years. Quite remarkably, having been to the Supreme Court of India, the Parliament, the Rashtrapati Bhavan, and also other high courts, to my personal surprise, we discovered that we don't have an institution of that kind. And quite remarkably, the United States, which is also one of the older democracies, has an institution called the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, right near the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia. Having been to that institution, we embarked on a journey at O.P. Jindal Global University to establish India's first Constitution Museum. As we speak, efforts are on to build this museum. And I want to share this with you because today, more than ever, we are also critically involved and embedded ourselves to the ideals of Constitution. When I was young and went to school, we had a subject called civics. The ideas of Constitution and civic education was promoted and was part of that education then. Unfortunately, in recent times, such a subject is not taught in our schools. So a generation of young people, and probably many of you, have grown up with little understanding of the Constitution. And one of the efforts is to take the Constitution out of the imagination of lawyers and judges and to involve historians, political scientists, sociologists, anthropologists, philosophers, and of course media professionals, people who engage in literature, to be able to connect with the Constitution. This museum will be located here, and we are indeed expecting the inauguration of the Constitution Academy and the Rights and Freedoms Museum on 26 November of this year. I know that you will be part of the effort to make history. In any case, on a lighter note, I will say that as it is, a lot of people are carrying the copy of the Constitution these days and walking around. It is only appropriate that a university which is deeply embedded in the values of Constitution and the fact that a lot of young people are here makes it even more important for us to be wedded to it. In closing, I want to say that as a young person today, you have a very big responsibility. We are a country of 1.5 billion people. That makes us the world's largest population. But what many people don't know, at least outside India, is that 1 billion of that 1.5 are people who are less than 35 years of age. At the dawn of Indian independence in 1947, our life expectancy was 32, and today it is 72. United Nations estimated that in the next decades, we will end up having a life expectancy of over 80. That essentially means that when most parts of the Western world will become older, when most parts of Eastern world, including China and Japan, will become older, India will be younger and will be younger for a longer time. Young Indians like you The students of the Jindal School of Journalism and Communication will be shaping the future of India and the future of the world. And you will be able to do that only if you are able to get the kind of education that can not only be informative, but also engaging, inspiring, and truly transformative. Our speaker today, who has agreed to deliver the commencement lecture, is one such person who has spent his educational and professional life to advance those ideas through a most powerful medium, the films. I have great pleasure in once again thanking Imtiaz Ali for accepting our invitation. I also want to thank Amreen and also Kishalai for making all of this happen. I'm also so happy to see that all of you are here without a lot of nudging to be present here. I think it's important we get Imtiaz often so that we can see the faces of our students in these areas other than their own respective rooms. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Raj. कहते हैं कहीं पहुंचने के लिए कहीं से निकलना जरूरी होता है. This profound line speaks to the journey of self-discovery and adventure, much like the cinematic journeys Mr. Imtiaz Ali takes us on through his films. A very good morning to one and all present here. It is with immense pleasure that I, Moksh Than, President of the JSJC Student Council, stand before you today as we have the honor of hosting someone who has redefined storytelling in the Indian cinema, whose movies resonate deeply with our hearts and soul, the one and only Mr. Imtiaz Ali. From the soulful streets of Delhi in Rockstar to the enchanting lanes of Corsica in Tamasha, Mr. Ali's films have taught us to embrace the beauty of moments in our lives. Your work in Jab Bhi Met, sir, reminded us that main apni favorite hu, and that self-love and confidence are the keys to conquering any obstacle. The character's quest for freedom and self-discovery in the movie Highway taught us that zindagi kaise jeeni hai, ye hum decide karte hai. Your films are not just stories, they are experiences that leave an everlasting mark on our hearts. Today, as we eagerly await your words of wisdom, we are reminded of a dialogue from Tamasha. ये कहानी तो सबको पता है, पर ये कहानी कैसी है, ये सिर्फ सुनाने वाला ही बता सकता है. On that note, I now invite the storyteller himself, the man of the hour, Mr. Imtiaz Ali, to take the stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I must congratulate you, Mr. Vice Chancellor, for all these bright faces that I see. I must congratulate you for the brightness of the faces that I have seen today morning. This is not an easy achievement in a college, university atmosphere. And there's a lot that has gone into it. And, but this is the tip of the iceberg that we see and we can enjoy. I stand over here, it feels as though in a garden full of very bright flowers. And I'm very happy to be here. And I thank Amreen and all the powers that be that brought me here. And I'm immensely reminded of the time when I was sitting in those chairs, looking at things like commencement lectures, looking up at people on the stage, because my stage in Hindu college was up, and listening to commencement lectures. And in all the years that separate me from you, I have learned that now I'm on the stage to not look down upon its audience. And there are many other things that I've also learned, I think, in the journey in between. And the most important thing is that you can only take with a pinch of salt the experiences of other people. If by chance I happen to share some of my experiences today, it is not meant for you to follow them. At best, these are just musings of a person who's sharing his experiences for you to just just look at them and see if there's anything that strikes you or, strikes a chord in you. So today is about stories, I think, because I just read that the commencement ceremony, that stories matter. Why stories matter? Why stories matter? So what I have told you before this, in a sense, is the fact that don't only follow the stories of other people, create your own myth. Create your own stories. We will come back to this point. But before that, we were talking in the car, and there is a quote by Plato, who was mentioned earlier by Professor Kisle. And I must congratulate you for all the information that you just so quickly doled out. You guys should search for it. So Plato said, those who tell stories rule society. We will come back to this one also. But just thinking about stories, there is this, so, you can look at stories and the fact that it is believed that Homo sapiens came to rule the world because of stories. There were other animals, there were other human races, species, that were more powerful than Homo sapiens. But Homo sapiens could organize themselves into concepts that came from stories. So, simple thing that was written in this wonderful book called Sapiens, that some of you might have read, and I suggest everyone should read, is that a monkey can indicate that there's a lion that might attack, so we are in danger. It might also indicate that there is an eagle that might attack. And these two sounds are different. So obviously there is language in the monkey world. Perhaps an antelope can also communicate that there is a lion, so run immediately, or that the lion is at a little distance, so you've got to, there is some time for you to run. But, and then there were other species of humans that could perhaps do a bit more. And they could organize themselves to certain concepts. But the sapient species was to say that there is a god lion that is actually the father of our race or something like that, and create a myth. It was the humans, it was the sapient species that could say there is a god. We must worship it. Or that there is a fairy, or an elf, or a dwarf, or a giant, or a demon. And basically, they could tell stories and imagine things that do not exist. And therefore, they came to believe in concepts like corporates, things that you can't see, love, things again that you can't see. And perhaps the Homo sapien species is the only one that actually tells stories. And it is actually quite debated and perhaps generally understood that it is stories that made us the most powerful species on earth. God knows for how long, and God knows how we've used it. But coming back to this whole thing, there are a few things that I wanted to share apart from movies, apart from media, which is expected, and we'll talk about all of that as well. But the fact is that if we go back to Plato, because he said a very, very important thing, that those who tell stories rule society. The other way of looking at it is, who are the people that rule society? And what is the story they are telling us? And how is it so influential in our lives? Okay, so what are the powers that be? I feel one of them may be money, like market, business, the might of money. And so there was this very interesting thing that came out in the beginning of COVID, that all the international markets, the entire market has crashed because people are buying only what they need. What does that mean? It means that the market, to do better, needs us to buy things that we don't need, to form habits that are not necessary. And therefore, there will be more expenditure that we have to meet. So that is the way that the market works today. And you can say that it's all right because money goes from one pocket into another pocket. But what also market does is that the way that it is going on is that it takes the money from the pockets of many people and puts it into the pockets of very few people. So this is what creates this kind of a power. And what is the story that we've been told, therefore, to make this happen and make this prominent? What I'm trying to say over here is that as students, and especially as people of the media, it is not enough for us to listen to other people's stories. It is very important for us to also see what our stories are within the narrative, how we can pierce the narrative. I think media should be about piercing the narrative and seeing the inside truth, to form, therefore, your own story that you've got to say. Because the purpose of education, I believe, is not to obey. The purpose of education is to open your eyes and see and question. And one of the things that I would like to also share is that if you follow every command that is given to you, if you follow every instruction that is given to you, you're setting yourself up for failure. There is a lot of merit in actually challenging the tenets that are thrown to you. It is more favorable and perhaps more profitable for people to challenge authority than just to follow, because the whole world will come to you and try to make you faceless, nameless objects that can fit into a system. There is always going to be pressure on people to lose their individuality, because the smoothest commodity that one can get for market is a faceless person, is a faceless consumer. We've stopped calling people, we call them consumer. We've stopped calling stories, we've started to call them content. These are faceless things. These have no individuality. And you or me or anybody has no power unless you have your individuality. So when the world goes crushing it, you must protect it, because that is the only profitable thing to do in this world. That is the only merit that anybody might have. And this is the place for you to be, to pick more of yourself. I see before me a very bright place. I can't put it in objective reasoning, but I feel that this might be the place created so meticulously by the founders of this institution, where you can actually be more of yourself. So use this opportunity very well. Do all that you can. You will find various disciplines. And as you were saying, sir, that the system of education was different the time I was studying. It's different now. It was very different when Plato was climbing the hill with Sophocles, etc. Over that time, everything was the same thing. Politics was also theater, was also science, was also astronomy, was also philosophy. And just a remarkable statistic about Athens, he was talking about Athens at that time, the population of static Athens was not more than 10,000. Out of 10,000 people, we over here in this hall have taken the name of like 7 or 8. So can you imagine that happening? And we are talking about what, 300 BC? Maybe 400 years before Christ. So 2024 years, and then, 300 years or 400 years before that, we still know the name of Sophocles, Euripides, Plato, and Archimedes, and Aristotle, you know, all these guys, Socrates. So that was because of education. That is because they decided to educate themselves. And I feel that I can see this bright change in the nation as well, sir. That education is being given finally the seriousness that it was perhaps not given in our times. Some of us had to choose to be educated. You guys don't have that choice in a way that is good, but you have to go beyond. We are an overpopulated nation, the most populated nation on earth. You will never do well if you don't go beyond the course. And the way to go beyond, I feel, is to find yourself, find what your own story is. So I can see your faces and I realize that shayad funde bahut zyada ho gaye. But I get this opportunity because I'm perhaps the oldest person in the room right now. And we are very soon also going to talk about your questions, and I think Amreen is going to be in conversation with me, and we can have more about my story. Because for me, my story matters. For me, stories is that thing in my life which gives me comfort when there is nobody else. And just to put it slightly, just as a means to entertain myself, pass my time, I used to imagine beyond what I saw. You know, if I saw, let's say, a girl in a train, I would think what would happen if she missed the train, and what would happen if I happen to also miss it. And then how will we get into the train, and then as we are doing so, what might happen between us? And who is this person who is standing on that window? And after I leave, what would happen in the life of that person? These were just means of self-entertainment. And then it has, I consider myself the luckiest person on earth, because to do this, people used to say in my time that, why are you wasting your time? You're daydreaming, you're doing theater, you're writing. What a waste of time. Why don't you get into class and study mathematics? You guys are actually here to study it. How lucky are you? But you are still having to give some money. I am actually being paid to do this. How lucky am I? I think all of us have to do that little bit extra service to society, because all of us are lucky being here in media, in filmmaking, in journalism. And what else? Corporate communication, as long as there's communication. So I thank you very much for being here. And I'm feeling very happy, being a film industry person, to see a house full. And I hope to meet many of you over and over again. And all the best, and do very well in your lives. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Imtiaz, on behalf of our university, our Vice Chancellor, and certainly our students. We extend all our gratitude. Thank you very much for making the time. And I hope the university, the campus, has been able to create some myth and some magic over your mind. What do you feel? What's your mood?
Mood is upbeat. And I'm really looking forward to spending more time talking. And the brightness is infectious. And there are so many smiling faces. Hardly anyone is asleep in the auditorium. That's very rare.
Okay, wonderful. Imtiaz, thank you very much. If you had said anything less in your short speech, we wouldn't have loved you more. So, and we expected you to talk so beautifully and with such profound insights in the industry and the learnings. But do you realize that this room has a capacity to hold 200 students and people, but it's chock-a-block completely. Many have bunked their classes to be part of this. I'm sure many students would want to, they would aspire to be in your shoes. How comfortable are in your shoes? How did you realize that your shoes...
My shoes are old. As you can see, they're scraped off a little bit. And they have like, they're a bit dusty and the sole is wearing out, but that is S-O-L-E, sole, not the other one.
How did it get so dirty and worn out when you were a student? As you mentioned, you were sitting in one of the seats. How was the journey? The conversation is not about just the films, the work, the body of work that you have shared with us through your art, through your craft. But tell us about you. I'm sure, but before we start off, do you realize these are all Gen Zs, right? This room is packed with Gen Zs. How do you understand who the Gen Zs are?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. See, the good thing about me is that I have a daughter who's now 23. So she's like brought me up. So she's educated me. So now I know a bit more about you guys.
So the Gen Zs say that there are very few people in the film industry who have that, they are cool, okay? And the cool guys, okay, the slang the Gen Zs use is called aura. Right? You guys have to, it's your show, not ours. And for a change, it's your show, it's not Imtiaz's show. So we're going to get into that vibe. So aura, yes or no? Yes. Huh? Louder. Aura? Yes. Okay. So now we're getting to aura. So aura, so...
I was saying agora, now you made it aura.
But what is aura? How can someone explain to me? Vibe. Just the vibe of someone is the aura of someone. There's no difference. No?
What is Gen Z's aura versus Imtiaz Ali's aura?
Aura is not age specific.
Ooh.
How can it be, no? Okay.
So who else, according to them, there are only two people in the film industry who are cool and they have aura. So one is certainly you and the other one is Shah Rukh Khan.
One has to be me because I'm here.
And the other one...
It will be Rajkumar Hirani when he's here.
And who would be the other one? Make a guess. Because Shah Rukh has the aura. Yeah, yeah.
Yesterday was the release of the film that we did together, Shah Rukh and I, Jab Harry Met Sejal. And it's perhaps the... Yeah, and I hope, and I wish that there were theaters as full as this for that film.
So coming back to what you spoke, and we'll pick up each topic one by one, but it would be great if you shared that when you were in the Gen Z zone, in your 20s, in your 22, 25, that range of age bracket, why were you different? And why your soul today are worn out, your shoes are not tight, you're comfortable, but the whole journey that you're that you've covered?
While in school, this is going to be a cliched kind of a reply coming from me. But while in school, there was this painting in front of the library, and what was written on top was a quote by Rumi. And I didn't even realize it till a few years back, and it said, keep your eyes clean because you will see well, keep your ears clean so that you could hear good, and so on, and keep your hands clean so that you could do your work better, but keep your feet dirty so that you will never be embarrassed or worried about walking any lane that you have to. And that was something that I took a little bit seriously when I came to college and when I was Gen Z. We didn't call it that at that point. We called it freshers in Delhi University. So at that point of time, I walked various streets in Delhi. I walked the streets of Mandi House to do theatre, and I rarely went to class, unfortunately, and that was because. Did someone clap? But if I were a student here, I would. But back in the day, my principal told me, guys, take a grasp of this. My principal told me after he saw a play that I had performed, Mr. P.C. Verma, I can talk about him because he's no more. He said to me, son, don't waste your time attending classes. If you do 2 productions of plays in the year for Hindu college, you will get your attendance. Don't listen to any joker. You know, the point is that this is a very controversial thing to say. And, but he perhaps himself was a witness of the educational institutions of that time and the way the syllabus was, and ultimately, and I topped in my college every year. So no, it's not a, like, the point is, it's actually all.
God he said that because Raj was getting very worried.
No, but you know, he said don't have to attend. And when my local guardian came to know, we were talking about my local guardian in the car, he was very worried. He called my father. He says that I've got a letter that they will not allow him to take the exams. So then I told him, no, uncle, don't worry. Because my principal has told me that he will sign on the thing, and as long as I do 2 play productions, he will allow me. Now, he said, who's your principal? Now, this guy was the chancellor of the Jamia University, my local guardian. So I didn't want him to know the name of my principal. I said, no, sorry, but I'll manage. So somehow I managed. So anyway, so not this, but I went to various places in Delhi, I feel. The kind of experiences that Delhi gave me, it's kind of interesting that I'm here right now. And you went to the law faculty, and we were just talking in his office before this, and he said that your college, which is Hindu college, my college, was still a sophisticated place to go, but law fac was a gunda place. Law faculty at that point of time, it has changed a lot, and perhaps because of attendance of such eminent people. But like there was a little bit of ruffian-giri that we did. There were some fist fights that I got involved in personally. I learned how you need to think when you're fighting. Basically, just keep your mind. If you guys get into a fist fight, don't lose your shit. Okay, just that. If you are aware, thanda dimag rahega, you'll be able to handle anything. And look at the person that is the dangerous person. Don't look away. So anyway, that, and then there was other things which involved, we used to sit at that time. You must remember, sir. We used to. Yeah, we used to go to Kamla Nagar, or we used to call it K-Nags. We used to go to K-nags. If some senior came and said, come, I'll take you to Nirula's for a milkshake or something of that sort, we used to go over there. We used to go to all of these places, and we used to also have this very strange and an interesting culture, which you must also promote. Tea stalls and conversations with serious topics. And there used to be it used to be written, Jai Singh Lawn, for instance, there was a place in the Hindu college. And there was a list of events of like conversations that are going to happen, or discussions or debates even that might happen at Jai Singh Lawn. So you'd order tea and sit, and you might have 100 or 200 people sitting there also, talking about something that you're not really supposed to talk so openly about. It could be anything. It could be controversial. It could be about religion. It could be about politics, about anything that you are actually not, you know, it's not even safe to talk about. It could be about sexuality, but we used to do all of that. So many roads, and we were talking, Kisle and I were talking, that it's actually good for people in media and films to be educated and be aware of other things, because your films are always going to be of other things. Even your stories will not be about the media itself, you know. So media is just the lens that you have. You'll still have to see the rest of the world.
You've encouraged the students to not obey. Do you realize that we have the Vice Chancellor sharing the stage and the registrar, and do your own thing? So this is a very complex and a very risky space, you know, when you say, oh, you can, you know, just do your own thing, do your own shit, figure this out, and you'll find a way. But
do it respectfully. The point is, do it. You can disobey. You can choose to disagree. You don't have to be rude about it. I mean, why would you be rude, you know? And also, if you open your eyes, you will also see the achievements and the merits of other people. To listen and to keep your ears clean also means to hear what other people have thought or what they have to say. You might have a belief. Young people always should have various beliefs, but if they have the ability to drop them when they know that the other person is saying something which is actually the opposite of it, but the right thing, that is what makes you a winner. So by all means, don't follow instruction, but don't not understand the instruction.
All right, Imtiaz, I have a couple of questions. One is a half-serious one. You remember in Delhi University when we were there, there was this extraordinarily unique culture.
Inside,
Right.
okay, it comes right in front of Hindu college. At that point of time, these students who were beaten up, they went and they called their friends from the hostel.
Right.
And then this bus was burnt.
I know.
I'm so sorry, it's a bad thing to have happened. I'm not saying that it was a good thing. After that, by the time I came around, you came around, I used to go to Mandi House every day to do theatre. I used to say, staff. They never asked me for money. I have never paid a DTC bus ticket.
So these are students saying themselves staff, you know?
Yeah, students as old as you saying staff hai. Staff ka kya matlab?
Okay, the serious one. So you were in 1993, you graduated from Hindu as an undergraduate student. And at that time, the 1991 economic reforms barely happened. And India was definitely in a very different state, both in terms of aspirations, opportunities, economic status. In the 1880s, when you were in high school, probably we had even worse situations, assassinations, and so many things were happening at that time. So the kind of hope and aspiration was to a large extent limited by the circumstances under which you were a student. And today, when you look at these people here, young people, they are in a completely different scenario of India, where some of the challenges do remain, but they are also in an aspirational India where you can pretty much dream to do anything you want. In fact, there is no limits to the possibility to do whatever they want, and we tell them as well. So my question to you is, Imtiaz, how did you dream about your future at that time when the prevailing circumstances were simply not enabling that possibility?
As I said, I used to have stories that in my mind to entertain me. I used to think about things that were part fact, part fiction. I used to think about a scenario which was a bit dreamy and a bit real. And that drifting continued in my career choices beyond a point of time, sir. Unfortunately, I was also a good student. And so it was, and I was a physics, chemistry, math student. But I drifted from there and wanted to do English literature because I felt that I'll be close to media. Like, can I call you Raj?
Yes, you should.
Yes. Yeah. So as he said, that when his relatives came to his house and said, "Arey yaar, tu to acha tha. Kya problem hai? Why did you have to do law? Okay, if you can't be good enough to be a doctor, why don't you become an engineer?" and so on and so forth, right? In our time, media was also looked down. It was below law, I think. It's like, media? Kyun? Fail ho gaya? So picture mein so it was almost like, and I used to try to explain to my relatives, etc. So, where were we?
You choosing English literature.
I chose English literature, so drifted. I wanted to come to media. I didn't have the courage to say to anybody that I want to come to media. So then, like, they thought, acha, maybe he'll become an IAS officer. That is why he's going to Delhi, because how can you go to Delhi University and not take your UPSC? So I was like, maybe let's see, let's discover. Life is a discovery. Aisa thoda vague bol karke, I came into Hindu college to do English literature. And then I was hoping that I get into media. I could never convince myself that I'll ever be in the film industry because I come from Jamshedpur, small town, that you can't even imagine going to the film industry. You don't know what that is.
And mind you, there were no journalism schools at that time, so
Nothing.
the idea of
Yeah.
media was...
So, yeah.
Please, sorry.
So then, so it was like drifting, and also in a way it turned out like that for me in my life, that, I was dreaming that I'll do theater. That was my pastime. I was dreaming that I'll tell stories. That was just my fancy. I used to, and then that fancy and that dream actually came into reality, and here I am in front of you, a film director, God knows how. So sometimes, while they say that your plans fail, your dreams never fail. So you should just dream your individual dream.
You're a master of cinema. You're a master of your trade of cinema and art and culture. So why, there are many students here who would want to explore. How difficult or how complex is this world? Or is it catch a dream karo or wo film ban jaye?
So
What
I
is
found
it?
in the film industry many other dreamers. And I basically, the people that are successful in the film industry are drifters and dreamers. That is what united us. I felt very welcome in the film industry. I was coming with no backing, no background, nothing. I'd never been to Bombay before. But I felt welcome when they realized that I have something to contribute, no matter whether they were high or low, they listened. Believe me, I made a film, my first film, Socha Na Tha, took a long time to make. However, it was produced by one of the biggest producers of its time. Vijeta Films, which is Dharmender, Sunny Deol. Sunny Deol was my producer. Imagine, he was already the biggest star of the time, and he had done they had made many films. It produced many films. I was a newcomer. But they never, ever crossed my way. They never told me, do this, don't do that. If Sunny did not understand something, he would come and ask in a very nice manner, never undermining my authority, never questioning my decisions, but just consulting sometimes. Except for, he only said, please take a cinematographer who's done a film before, because this is your first film. And please take a music director whose music we know, so because this is your first film. That's all. So I think that I have felt very welcome. I'm very lucky about it. And I also, please go ahead and clap. Thank you. And so there are these notions about the film industry that people are doing drugs all the time, and people are having affairs with each other all the time, and so on and so forth. But you have to come to the film industry to see how hard a Deepika Padukone or an Alia Bhatt works in a day. You will be amazed. You will not be able to do it yourselves. It's so hard. That much work has to be done when the work is being done. So again, pierce the narrative when you can. How can somebody do so much work if he's doing drugs all the time? Or having affairs all the time? These things take time, you know.
Thank you so much for that. I'm so glad you said it. Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that happened around the time probably you entered the film industry, but also now much later, is that there was a point of time where film industry, for a number of reasons, including the financial framework of film industry, had a lot of black money, but more importantly, wealth that was not accounted for in the system as well. I think today, more than ever before, a lot has changed. And first question, would you attribute that as a part of your own evolution to the film industry? And secondly, to what extent that gives opportunities for these young people? Because, you know, your own life, and I'm sure Mr. Shah Rukh Khan's life too, where you are all people who didn't have any sort of background in that sector, industry, and you entered, and kind of by the sheer grit and determination of your own hard work and accomplishments, you achieved the pinnacle of success. That's a message I thought our students might love to hear.
Just a statistic is that I have never got cash payment for any of the works that I've done. By the time I came around into the film industry, we were only dealing with white money, you know, and it was all accounted for. In fact, some of us were even complaining that yaar pura tax mein chala jayega. So on and so forth. I used to hear it because my seniors were used to get black money, like they used to get cash. But by the time I came, we were so desperate just to bloody get work. We weren't worried about money, honestly. So, but it turned out to be a great thing that all the money is accounted. What does it mean? It means there is no illicit shit happening over there. So you can just go ahead and do your work and not worry about whose money is it? Is it going to be backtracked to me? And also, it also tells you that you are working in an industry which then can look for finance in a legal manner, and it's a part of the bloody, you know, framework of the whole nation. You know, you're connected. You're not in some underworld. So that is the scenario totally, and it's becoming very professional, so to the extent that we used to write a one-page agreement with the producers in the beginning. I'll do this film, this is the money. That's all, one page. Now that contract takes months and months, and I never even have the time to read it.
That's the lawyers in the room.
That's the lawyers in the rooms, they'll do it, yeah.
So we'll open the house, yeah. So we'll start taking questions from the audience.
Short question.
Yeah, and identify yourself, what course you're doing. There's a mic.
Yeah, mic is coming.
Yeah.
Do you need a mic?
So part two is that what advice would you give to filmmakers who are just making films on their iPhone? They don't have a budget. They have just like 2-3 friends and they are doing it. Yeah.
Answering the second question first, I would say to the iPhone filmmaker that he's lucky or they are lucky, because back in my time, there was not even that. Right? Today, there's the possibility that everyone has to make a film, you download a software, edit it, and put it on the net. You need zero money for this, right? Your merit will show. More than that, you can get practice. This choice did not exist before your generation. So one has to be thankful and use these gifts as well as you can. And secondly, the first part of your question now, you want, like everyone wants all their films and all their work to be very successful. There's no doubt about that. But success is measured in different ways. I do believe that if you take some money from somebody to do your work, make your film, you must return that money to that person. You can't make them have a loss. So on that account, Tamasha was kind of fine. So I was not like, I didn't lose too much sleep over it. But yes, it was supposed to be a much bigger, like a hit when it was released, and it took some years to actually come into the imagination of people, so to speak. But I wasn't thinking there is some brilliance that I can see and others can't. But on the other hand, I was thinking, what are the demerits in the film that everybody else is seeing and I'm not seeing?
That's a good one.
Please raise your hands at the back. Okay. Let's try to pick up questions from this side quickly first. And then
Should I
ask
Okay.
quickly?
Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, sir. Welcome to JGU. I'm Shreya. I'm a final year student of journalism at JSJC. And while we're still talking about Tamasha, a small observation that I made, and I might be wrong, is that Ved's character in the final scenes of the film bore a striking resemblance to you. So in your films, how much of your own life do you use, especially in films like Tamasha?
I try none.
Okay.
I'm very careful because filmmaking is a process by which you can totally expose yourself. And I watch a film and I feel that all my secrets are out here now. And I try that there is no resemblance between me and my characters, but because I write every stage of the script myself and I also then direct it, there is some unwanted marks from my body as well.
You want to pass on?
Hello, sir. It's an honor to meet you. So actually, I had one question, and the question was that my name is Manish, and so the question is that how do you define a?
What do you study, Manish?
I study international affairs.
International affairs.
Yeah.
Okay. Where's your school? How far away from here is it? Same campus, but it must be a long. Same campus is not a small place, a huge campus, right? Like, is it far from here?
Kind of. Yeah.
Achha, all integrated. Okay, got it. Sorry.
So,
All right.
so the question that I have
This
is
is just my old-fashioned law fact. Yeah, okay.
okay, so the question that I had is
Yes, sir.
how do you define a good day at work and a bad day at work, like in terms of creativity, like आज का दिन सही था.
No, that's a very good question. That's a very good
आज का
question.
दिन कैसा है? You can
बढ़िया है.
You know, something luminous happens, Manish. It's like you feel an internal happiness when you're writing or directing or something, and you don't realize it at that time. But sometime later, you feel a certain excitement inside you. And you wonder why I'm feeling this excitement. And then you look back and you say, you know what, that scene that I wrote or that scene that I directed, that new thing that I could think of, that one thing even maybe, was luminous. It had light. I don't know how else to put it. That's what I think makes a day successful, if you have that in a day.
And what about the bad day? Like, how is it a bad day different?
When you don't have this light.
Also, one last question. No problem.
अरे इधर वालों ने
Lots
क्या
of fun.
गुनाह किया है?
Yeah.
And I'm pursuing the film and new media course here. It's my first year. My question was, how have you navigated through the tensions between your artistic vision and the commercial pressures that you have? How have you ensured that your work does reach and resonate with the broader audience but still stay true to your creative integrity?
Good question, Myra. Welcome to the university.
What a start for you.
And what's the answer to this question? One cannot kid oneself to say that one can exist without the other. Deen or Dunya, for people that understand Hindi, साथ में चलती है. There's a balance between the dream and the reality. Famously, Gautam Buddha has his eyes half closed, half open in every statue, which means he's connected to the world as well, and he's also connected to himself or anything higher than that. Yes, you have to balance it out, but in time, I have understood that by giving up your vision, you are not being able to even meet the demands of the world. By giving up the story and by making compromise-oriented changes on it, the film has never been successful. But on the other hand, if there is something that I felt very strongly and intensely, the audience has also felt. So, how I look at it, Myra, is that I feel that I'm also a part of the audience, right? So, therefore, if I like something, there's a bigger and a better chance that people might like it. If I don't like it myself and I'm hoping that people will like it, then that's really aiming in the dark. So this is what I can say.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, has there been any piece of media, whether a movie or a book, which has changed your outlook on life, and if yes, which one?
Nandini, you'll be a lawyer. Huh? You want to be a lawyer? Creative lawyer.
Theatre.
Theatre and lawyer. Wow.
Today
You're
she'll
taking us
decide.
back to Athens then.
But lawyers are performers in that sense.
Yeah. So there'll be theatrics. Yeah, I would like to name a few things that have had an influence on my mind, you know. As far as books are concerned, I feel that when I read the end of A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway, I was really moved. I think that has remained with me, and it has influenced me and influenced much work that I have done. Also, I think Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, it's another classic. And the way the description goes over there, and there is this place where a character says, Nellie, I am Heathcliff. don't think of our separation. It is impractical. And this Catherine says this. So I was really, I was thinking, what the hell, man? Like, how did people even think or imagine this? And then I always had that in my mind whenever I was working. You know, I've got goosebumps just thinking about it right now. So there are many pieces of art like that that have inspired me a lot. Poetry has inspired me huge amounts. There are so many small fragments and pieces of what Shakespeare has written that has inspired me a lot. More than even that, I feel, and I've said it in a few interviews recently also, that I happened to buy an inexpensive book at the A.H. Wheeler stall when in my first solo travel by train, which my father was making me do, and that happened to be the Bhagavad Gita, because it was the Bhakti Vedanta, I think must have published it at a cheaper cost so that people could afford it. It's a small book. And I, just out of style, that, you know, I was in the 6th standard and I got the Bhagavad Gita. What a cool thing to do for a kid, right? So then but I also read it, and believe me, it did not leave my bedside for years. For 5 or 6 years, every day I used to read some excerpts from it. And I used to marvel that, how did anyone even come here? How did anyone think this? It really inspired me. Poetry inspired me a lot. Faiz Ahmad Faiz, if you have read Urdu poetry, that really inspired me. It still inspires me. Poetry for me is also, you know, the daily balm. Like I can think of one piece of poetry, and there is recently a Portuguese poet called Fernando Pessoa, if you can catch what he writes. So things, just nuggets from there, just inspire me a lot.
Let's have questions to the last person there. All right. Yes, yes, please. You'll have to be really loud.
I've been dying to ask you some questions since really. Yes. So I just have 2 parts because I'm pretty curious.
Are you a lawyer?
I'm from a banking and finance school, so pretty curious. Not finance questions per se, but I've watched your movies since you know, I had my senses. That was 2010, and I've never missed a movie after that. And the one thing that I really notice is that you know, you have touched topics that are never talked about, and you have touched topics that, you know, make you feel that you are so grounded, and you can just imagine yourself out there being that person that, right, you know, when I watched Jab We Met, I thought that, okay, I might want to be that particular person because she's so thoughtful, she's you know, pushing herself to be the person she is. So what is that one thing that you always keep to yourself, that, right, I am this director or this producer or this screenwriter, that I want to be there, I want to make people see what the reality is? That is one. And I come from, like where I'm coming from is that I have a podcast named House of Why. So it's a podcast, not House of Why, it is HOWSE. So it answers all the hows and whys in a student's life. So I am really curious to know, and as Professor Raj said that, you know, India is growing and we don't miss any chance. So I'd really like to have a short reel with you for my podcast, if that's possible.
You're in the right profession. She's a deal maker.
So I mean, I wouldn't mind take a 30-minute.
Yeah, we have to move ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to do the reel is the real question he wanted to ask. That was part C.
So that's like, that I don't know.
And what was part B?
Part A was the question and part B was the podcast.
No, but what was the question? Just repeat it.
Okay, so it was more of that, how do you bring so much light to the movies?
So, hang on. So the fact is that when I'm writing a story, it is not a calculated thing at all. And I'm glad that you asked this question now. It is just a very instinctive, very desire-oriented. I am thinking already for the last 5 years maybe about something which I have not really, not consciously, but subconsciously, I've been thinking about this. So I just start writing it. And then that takes off and it becomes a film if it has to. This is not, there is no mission, there is no even significance to it actually. It all starts by being something that I really want to do. I'm just doing it. I don't know whether this will have a tomorrow or not. It's not for a reason. It's not that I am so and so. I'm definitely trying to not be self-aware about it either. It's not about I want to do this.
And we take a question from here. Just two more questions. Two more.
Yeah.
Okay, whoever grabs the opportunity.
White shirt. Arey, you, girl. Yeah.
Okay, whoever grabs the opportunity. Yeah.
Hi, sir. My name is Ananya. I'm doing journalism. It's my second year. So my question is that do you think that if Tamasha were to be released in current times where, mental health and mental illnesses are more explored, more talked about, it would have received a different kind of response from audiences than it did in 2015 when, these topics were not covered or, taboo?
Well, I think that it is already getting a lot of love and response from the audience.
Absolutely.
And because media has changed now, there is the presence of OTT platforms, and there is also, many individuals that talk about it on different platforms in social media, for instance. There is so much conversation about Tamasha, more than many other films of mine that were more successful on the day of its release. And also there is this new trend that is kind of beginning. Today, Laila Majnu is running in Srinagar. And that's a big thing considering the fact, sir, that when the movie was, it's all like 100% based in Kashmir, and all characters in the whole film is about Kashmir, but it couldn't release in Kashmir because back in the day there were no cinema theaters. Now it's releasing again theatrically. So, and it's going to run for 2 weeks at least because the house, the tickets are booked, in advance booking. And so that is happening. Some days back, Rockstar was released, some week. So, and it's not only my films, but any kind of film, because, when we make film, we feel that we are making something permanent. We will go away from the face of the earth, but the film can remain, the book can remain, It's for all times. So this re-release is a great concept, and the way that the media is, the exhibition of media is, that's a great concept too, for the longevity of cinema. You are asking, yeah. Just stand up, let me see your what you're wearing. Okay, nice. Okay, nice. As Geet.
Someone who really aspires to work with you.
Thank you. Khushi. Yeah, but after her question, yeah. Thanks.
So what I wanted to ask is, normally when I've seen people discuss Geet, they usually talk about her in the first half of the film, where she's kind of a very digestible, funny, outgoing girl, which is very typical of female characters in Bollywood, especially when they're meant to fix that misanthropic lead.
Especially when what?
They're meant to fix, the sad guy.
Yeah, okay. What the hell, yeah. How boring.
And I've always loved her in the second half, as she is kind of like this awakening and she's happy again. So I wanted to ask you, as someone who created that character, and I'm sure, I'm assuming on my part, your intention was to show both sides of this manic pixie character. How do you react to people only focusing on this one part that's so commercial? Commercial may be the wrong word, but
easy
consume.
to attention.
Yeah.
See, as long as they like the movie, as long as they like Geet, I'm fine with it. Yeah, but sometimes this happens that the canvas is never noticed. You know, something which is showy is noticed, but for that, the presence of the canvas is necessary. So that contrast is necessary, but I have grown to understand that there is, actually it's a compliment to the plain parts, that the showy parts are looking interesting to the audience. You know? So no, but I do think that if that part was not there in Jab We Met, if Geet did not go through what she went through in the second half, then she wouldn't have been so appreciated. Her perkiness could have gotten irritating even. But this balances the person out and it shows you a complete picture. So,
the actress who just makes it.
yeah, of course. It is Karina who did it, and she really brought herself there.
We need to wind up, but I can't help but ask about one particular film which I thought should have done much better, which is Amar Singh Chamkila. It's such a difficult movie to make, and I want you to articulate about your reasons for making it. And it's so much of layers and layers of complexity you covered within a short span of time. So how difficult it was to make it, and were you disappointed that it didn't, attain the kind of success that the effort deserves?
Actually, Amar Singh Chamkila is the most successful film that I might have made. It is actually the highest watched film of the year. Yeah. This is actually a statistic. It's a statistic that is given out. The only thing is that this film came directly to digital. It came directly to Netflix, so it did not have a theatrical release. But actually, it might be the most successful film that I've made. And because people mostly liked it. The number of people that have seen this film are even more than many other films already. It's the latest. However, it was very interesting the making of it was very interesting, because we had live music being recorded. They were actually singing and performing on stage. And this I had not done, and I don't know whether it's happened. Back in the day, Ashok Kumar and those actors and actresses used to sing live. Finally, after so many years, that happened in Chamkila, that they were singing live. That was good, and also being in the back of the Beyond in Punjab, in small town, and interacting with people over there, that was a very refreshing experience for me.
If Professor Raj would ask Imtiaz Ali to come and teach a course, what would that course be? What would you tell him? Okay, I'll take this particular course.
It won't be filmmaking for sure. It can be literature or maybe theatre.
Anyway, I was about to do that, which is that I would like to offer an appointment of a distinguished adjunct professor to Mr. Imtiaz Ali, and to have him come back again and again to inspire us. So thank you.
I would now like to invite our registrar, Professor Rabiru Hupatnaik, to give the concluding remarks and also present a little token of our appreciation to Mr. Ali. For that, I would like to call our student, Shekha Sam, to bring our token.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I must tell you for a fact, and I'm sure the Vice Chancellor would also agree, for us, this is like not a school commencement lecture, but a university-wide commencement lecture, because we could find so many of our students from other schools attending this lecture. But on a very different note, I must thank Mr. Imtiaz Ali for sharing his life experiences, because so many things that you had mentioned, it has a lot to do even with our pedagogical experiences within the classroom, and that's a message that I would like to share with all our newly admitted students joining various programs of the School of Journalism and Communication. The topic you chose, why stories matter, that indeed so very important when we wanted to articulate and deconstruct and share our own ideas about a particular discipline, because when you are storytelling, you are emotive, you are participating in that particular exercise, you are immersive, you are yourself, you are original. And that's the kind of a pedagogical experience that you can have as part of the school and the university, and all our returning students and existing students from the School of Journalism and from even other schools would agree. So here you have an opportunity to carve your own story, your own understanding of the discipline, and thus prosper, while again taking a key word from Imtiaz about respect, the way you're going to treat yourself. You would expect others to treat yourself. You would treat even others in a similar way, and have that much needed respect for diversity, for heterogeneity, for the university regulations. And it's going to be a fun time here, both academically and even all matters pertaining to the curriculum, because the individual becomes important, as it's a learner-centric environment, which many of us during our days did not get. And on this particular note, even I must express my gratitude to the Vice Chancellor to have raised some questions and shared some reflections. And those were the reflections of our days and times in the early 90s and late 90s. So that's indeed very nostalgic, and also puts us on a path to realize that we are on a path of hope and not despair, and triumph and not trivials. So on this particular note, I congratulate all the newly admitted students, and I would like to once again, iterate the support of the school faculty and the staff members and the support of the entire university to ensure that you have quite an enriching and engaging experience. And I'm also grateful to the speaker for having spent a considerable time here with us, and we look forward to having you more with us, Imtiaz, in days to come. Thank you so much. Before we wind up, I would request the Vice Chancellor to felicitate our guests this afternoon.
And also, I want to compliment the designer of the invite. Imtiaz walked in and he said, I'd like to say, at least say hello to him, whoever has designed the invite. Huh? Anupam? Huh. Please call. Huh.
And a selfie we are taking. Everyone needs. Oh, he's going to take one. No, take this. So everyone come this way. Is everyone in? Some of us occupy more real estate. You're here? Now only Sridhar is coming. Okay, Imtiaz, let me do this. Okay, yeah, you do it. All right. Let's do this, okay? All right, Kishalai, come. Kishalai, come. Kishalai.